Near the end of the chamber crazy box, there's a section where you have to intentionally paint a cube with repulsion gel in order to solve the puzzle, thus creating a crazy box. There's even an achievement if you catch this cube on the first try. Pretty cool, right? Let's skip it. From the start of the chamber, the ending elevator is visible, so naturally, speedrunners and glitch hunters attempt to find ways to skip the level in its entirety from just the first part of the test. However, in the first section, we only have access to this repulsion gel dispenser as well as our portal gun. So, how can we gain enough vertical height as well as horizontal speed to go from this section of the chamber to this elevator? Well, let's talk about a glitch called the stuck launch. Not all glitches have intuitive names, but the stuck launch is an exception. You get stuck, and then you launch. More specifically, we use some faulty collision to get stuck in a peculiar way. The kind of stuck you see exhibited in a stuck launch is not a permanent stuck, but more of a temporary stuck. This is usually done when two unique pieces of geometry are put close next to each other. By holding a directional key, the player can get stuck between these two structures. The reason why I call this a temporary stuck and not a permanent stuck is because the player can get unstuck at any time by simply letting go of the directional key. So, what's the benefit of the stuck state? Well, there's this small little quirk in most video games called gravity. Because of gravity, the player will fall down at an increasing speed. When in this temporary stuck state, gravity works a little differently. The player's velocity will still increase as if they were in a falling state, but the player isn't actually falling. Well, they are falling, but at an incredibly slow rate. Imagine the stuck state puts a massive friction force on the player that impedes the normal falling rate. Through the stuck launch glitch, we're able to gain a lot of speed. The biggest problem with this glitch is that since all of our speed is gained through gravity, the speed is always directed downwards. Usually, we'd like a lot of upward speed so we can fling over levels, so we have to get pretty crafty when we use the stuck launch. To preserve the downward speed from the stuck launch, we either need to travel through a portal or bounce on repulsion gel. Since the geometry required to perform a stuck launch is so unique, it is often found far away from the portal surface floors seen throughout most of the game, and rather in the Old Aperture themed levels in chapters 6 and 7. Thankfully, Old Aperture is also home to the repulsion gel, so bouncing becomes the most common method of maintaining stuck launch speed. In Crazy Box, we can achieve a stuck launch in this corner, between a support beam and a gel pipe. This is great, but since we're on top of the level, there are obviously no portal surfaces in sight. However, there is a repulsion gel tube at the bottom of this level. Is there any way we could get a blob of gel on top of the level? There is, in fact, with something called portal funneling. Portal funneling is an intended game mechanic that all players have experienced in Portal 2 before, knowingly or unknowingly. You're often meant to gain momentum and fall through floor portals. And let's be honest here, those portals aren't that big. Yeah, there's more than enough room for shell to fit, but some flings can be a little daunting to land. Portal funneling fixes these concerns. In Portal 1, portal funneling was a mechanic you could actually toggle in the in-game settings. This menu had a checkbox with the text, "The computer helps you aim into floor portals," which is a pretty accurate description of what portal funneling is. When falling into floor portals, the game will funnel you into the center of the portal, basically ensuring that you land in the portal. Take this fling for example. If I were to set myself in the corner at the start of the fling, you'll notice that shell will magically move to the center of the portal, even with no inputs being pressed. This is portal funneling. The mechanic applies to shell, but it also applies to all physics objects in the game. Cubes, gel blobs, even turrets. By shooting a gel blob out of a floor portal, and then moving the portal, the gel blob will funnel into the new floor portal, changing its position just a tad. In Crazy Box, by utilizing portal funneling to move a gel blob, the player can cover the roof with blue gel. This strategic gel placement would result in a patch of blue gel right below the stuck launch spot. This is perfect. By bouncing off of this gel, the player will maintain the vertical velocity from the stuck launch. The last step, getting horizontal speed, as the end elevator is still far away from the starting chamber. Thankfully for us, Old Aperture's dome-shaped test chambers are great for bouncing off of. By doing some strafe in air, we can angle shell off of the chamber's bounds in order to land at the top of the next area. By shooting 7 portals into the wall, the player can time just the right amount of speed needed for the launch, landing shell on top of the next test chamber. Despite the lack of visible floor, the player is able to walk to the end, skipping the entirety of the test chamber. In a speedrun, this trick saves 10 seconds, and is also incredibly hard to pull off, due to the precise fling needed to get onto the ceiling of the chamber. Due to the precision required throughout the strat, it is often considered a run killer by top runners. However, when performed properly, the trick is crazier than a bouncy blue box.